Federal government agencies are scanning networks and reviewing inventory so they can remove any products from Kaspersky, a Russian cybersecurity company from which the government has bought products in the past. This week, the House Committee on Science, Space and Technology's Subcommittee on Oversight held a hearing about the state of government cybersecurity following new concerns about Kaspersky. One concern is that many agencies are still vulnerable. Joining me, two cyber experts who testified at that hearing: James Norton, founder and president at Play Action Strategies, and Sean Canuck, Director of Future Conflict and Cybersecurity at the International Institute for Strategic Studies. Gentlemen, thanks very much for coming on the program. James, I want to start with you. What was the message that you took to the Science Subcommittee this week?
You know, I think that the fact that since, I'll say the 2000s, that the dawn of the digital age has really opened up trillions of little holes in our national defenses. No longer can we depend on tanks and planes and kind of a wall around the country. It's really now an area where we have all these different holes and opportunities for intelligence communities to actually enter the United States and enter the space, and not only enter federal networks, but also attack individuals and provide information. And that's why we're seeing all these different attacks, in the last couple of years that have been reported. So it's really the new normal.
James, your takeaway from the hearing?
You know, I think we actually should thank Chairman LaHood and Ranking Member Baer for having this hearing and kind of sounding the alarm. I think they're going to have a series of hearings going forward, and I think it's a really important conversation to analyze and realize that it's not just this abstract threat that's out there that we kind of hear about, or we get some sort of data loss prevention. It's actually something that's here now and we have to deal with as a country and as a government to secure our own federal networks. And it really goes to credibility. One of the tenets of Homeland Security is to be able to share information with the private sector, and if they're not able to secure their own networks, then their credibility is lacking. And I think it's important for these hearings to try to help DHS and other agencies gain credibility and actually understand what's happening on their networks.
Just about every federal employee, I think, though, is and folks who haven't worked for the government are sensitive to this vulnerability, because a lot of them got letters a couple of years ago saying that their information had been compromised in a hack that eventually was traced back to the Chinese government. So this is something that's been on the radar screen of people in government for a long time, and it strikes me that maybe this Kaspersky incident is just a catalyst, and maybe not necessarily even the worst catalyst. Is that a fair observation?
Oh, absolutely. I think that 2015 was absolutely a very significant event. Losing 20 million plus pieces of information of some of our highest levels of government officials is a very damaging thing to our national security. And then going forward here, less than 2 years later, still having similar attacks and actually having potential software on the network that's could potentially do damage or still send information to our adversaries is still a problem. I think that Congress needs to be a real partner with the executive branch, and I think we need to be able to have honest conversations about what actually is going on and kind of get out of the defensive mode of what's there and what isn't there, and really try to figure out what is the best thing for the country to secure our federal networks. And that also flows down to the state and local networks, where we're talking about election security and are we ready for 2018, and we actually have an election here in Virginia in just a couple of days, and are they ready here? And so I think all these things coming together just tell us that we're not there yet and we have a lot to do.
We just have a minute or so left, gentlemen. There is a lack of leadership right now in the Homeland Security Department and in the White House on cybersecurity, a lot of spaces that the Trump administration has not yet appointed. A thought from each of you on what that might mean for this effort moving forward. James, I'll start with you.
I think it's critical that they appoint an Undersecretary for Cybersecurity at DHS. It's now been almost close to a year since the election. It's been about 10 months since the inauguration, and so they absolutely need political leadership at the department, not only so the private sector knows who they're dealing with, but also Congress knows who they're dealing with in terms of negotiating massive budgets. DHS is looking at the biggest reorganization since 2005 in terms of creating a cyber agency, and without that political leadership there to present the position of the Trump administration and also talk to the private sector in terms of what kind of information they need, how the government can be helpful, how they're creating trusted relationships is absolutely important. So we're really behind here, and it needs to happen soon.
James, thanks both very much for coming on, talking about your testimony. I appreciate it.
Thank you.